Hello. In this series of videos, I'm gonna go over the battles that I had at the World Championships on the stream and the team that I brought to reach second place at the World Championships. I'm just gonna put this trophy right here so it can stare into your soul. Let's take a look at the team that I brought. So as you can see, the team on the right is what I brought to the World Championships. This team my friend Scafo99 made, so it's not a team I made myself, but obviously I already did well before Giratina and Wigglytuff, and that's basically what I wanted to continue. The way this works or is constructed, Clodsire and Poliwrath really tackle the meta quite well. They pair very well together. Lantern with Watergun and Skarmy then cover Gligar quite well, and Giratina and Wigglytuff basically form as a core on their own. Lantern is my only Azumarill check, so that's one of the Pokemon I struggled with the most, but Giratina does fine into them. Probably the best dragon to use into Azumarill if you had to pick one, and then Skarmy has a fine neutral matchup as well. I've had friends tell me that Poliwrath's fine into Azumarill. Trust me, it's not a matchup you want to be in. I'll also be showcasing the IVs that I have on these Pokemon, because it's unlikely that I'll be using them anytime soon again. This is my Giratina that I've been using for a while since the Utrecht special event. It's called King Utrecht. Obviously, Giratina doesn't have a gender, so it could well be Queen Utrecht. This is a Pokemon that I have... this was my first roll, actually, and I was satisfied with this. With Giratina, there are break and bulk points that you want to get, and I don't remember them out of the top of my head. I know I get one against Alolan Sandslash, against some Talonflame, which allows me to win the 2 shields straight on those wins. I actually hardly bait, as you saw at the World Championships, despite my saying being always bait. I actually hardly do when it's serious, until I do. These are the stats. The most important thing about my Giratina, it could use some more HP, but that defense is important because this will give me a Gligar bulk point, and that will allow me to win the 1 shields into Gligar regardless of them going straight Aerial Ace or straight Dig. Giratina does generally need a lot of HP. I know that into high IV Charge Bug, I usually live by like 1 to 3 HP, I think, if they throw 3x Scissor with the Volt Switch in between. So Giratina, not super IV dependent, but that high defense is something that you kind of really want. The next Pokemon that I have is Watergun Lantern. I ran a rank 1, but I don't think this was the best Lantern to use at the World Championships. The best Lantern to use, in my opinion, is something like a 0-15-1, I think, which is extremely... it's everything on defense. And the reason why is because then you get a Lickitung bulk point, and that will allow you to win every even shield scenario, regardless of them baiting or not. I believe. It could also be combined with an attack... break point, but I think that one's kind of ridiculous. People were like, oh, then you can win Altaria. You lose everything else with that. So this is the rank 1 that I use. It's the best I had. Kind of speaks for itself. Really just there to have neutral matchups and to check Gligar and Azumarill. It was actually very crucial. We will talk about that later. With Whiscash also not being the prime mud boy anymore, but being Quagsire, Lantern actually wins the 2 shields. I think every even shield, actually. Maybe not the zeros. No, actually, I think the zeros as well. So Wigglytuff, this is the rank 2. This is actually a different Wigglytuff from that I used in Utrecht. This Wigglytuff has 2 more HP than the rank 1. And that will allow me to win the 0 shields. And I think maybe even the 1-0. I'm not too sorry, the 0-1. I'm not too sure about that one, but I'd have to double check. It makes Lickitung more consistent if I'm behind energy. Because usually you get to almost the same pacing to 2 Body Slam and 1 Ice Wind of Mine. So 2 Body Slam Lickitung, 1 Ice Wind of Mine is about the same pacing. So if Lickitung has a slight energy advantage, they will outpace 2 Body Slam, and then the 3rd Power Whip, based on their attack, could do 1 or 2 more damage, which would knock out Wigglytuff. I have had this before in, I think that was in Utrecht. And with this Wigglytuff, that can never happen, just because I have barely high enough HP. So if I swap my Wigglytuff into Lickitung, I should win it. I honestly think even if they have 2 shields, just because I charm them all the way down. So this would kind of... it's like a Lickitung Slayer, even though it already is better there. It solidifies it. So that HP, important on this one. I think the 0-14-15 has the same HP and exact same stats, so that's also rank 2. Clodsire is the rank 1. I don't use a map or scanner myself, but I think I was with a friend who did use one, and we happened to get the rank 1. Not much to say about that. Clodsire is just very bulky. I don't think it's very IV dependent. You don't get a lot of break points. Maybe there are some bulk points, but obviously for the new season, Clodsire is going to be very important. And that's why I probably won't use it anymore, because I don't like using meta. Basically speaks for itself, just a really bulky Pokemon. Poliwrath, I have a rank 6, and having a very high rank Poliwrath is very important because it might allow you to win the one shields into Shadow Gligar. But I never really did this at a championship, simply because if they have an attack weighted Gligar, like some people who wanted the Lickitung or Lantern breakpoints, they run attack weighted Gligar. You don't do that against them, and then you lose the ones extremely hard. So in one of my matchups against Marto Galde, I wanted to play the one shields, but I was too afraid of that risk. So I didn't do that. A high IV Poliwrath for that reason is important, because if you somehow know their IV, or you somehow find out they have a high IV, you win the one shields. And that's important. You get 2 debuffs, 2 shields, and perhaps a clean farm down on something that you can bring in. Skarmory actually ranked 73, not the best, but I always found that I win CB with this, so I just stuck with it. I could have built a rank 10 or something that I found just right before Worlds actually, but I stuck with this. I think one of the regrets that I have from the World Championships is advice that my friend Tomal gave to me, and that was to bring Shadow Skarmory, because Shadow Skarmory does better into Lickitung. It also does worse into Azumarill, so that kind of held me back, but I really wish I brought Shadow Skarmory for some scenarios, because Skarmory has been one of my better Lickitung answers. In fact, I have Poliwrath and Wigglytuff, which are so-so of hard punishes. It's not like Vigoroth or Registeel. And Skarmory is like iffy in the 1 or 0 shields. But the thing with Shadow Skarmory is that the lick damage from Lickitung will do the same damage, just does a little bit more body slam damage, while you deal more damage with Steel Wing. Skarmory's nerfed next season, like, severely, so this Pokemon's not exactly useful anymore. But yeah, that's the team, and that's the IV of the Pokemon that I used. My first 3 rounds were not on stream, but I'll just go through what it kind of looked like with the help of Dracoviz. My first opponent, Linus the Phoenix, I kind of fear a lot on players. They play very aggressive, and I'm usually the one playing aggressive, so I usually don't really know how to deal with that. Against Linus the Phoenix, I remember he let Azumarill twice. The first match he had Azumarill lead with Gligar in the back. I baited Charjabug out with something, and I had Lantern with Water Gun to core break these two to win my first game. And I believe the second game he brought Vigoroth instead, and I had Poliwrath or Clodsire to win this matchup pretty cleanly by 2. I was really afraid of that Altaria, but he didn't bring it at the time. My second matchup was against my good friend Anikor. And Anikor is like, you know, good friends with Caleb, with Shiny Dialga, and I've played those before in the CUS tournament and at NAIC. And Shiny Dialga actually beat me at NASC, so I was kind of afraid that maybe they're talking or something, but obviously Caleb and Shiny Dialga were busy themselves as well, of course. So I didn't exactly know how to tackle this. I thought my Poliwrath was looking really good because it's also a Water Gun Lantern, but he didn't bring the Water Gun Lantern in game number 1. And that allowed my Skarmory to be extremely good into, I think he brought his Goodra twice, he brought Lickitung twice, and against those two, my Skarmory is already very good. I brought my Lantern as well, because Goodra is his only answer, and honestly, well, Lickitung is also an answer, but so-so. But Goodra, like, the charge attacks are just weak. When they're neutral, they're weak. So I honestly, as Lantern user, don't respect the Goodra. He did bring it every time, though, so it was a little bit scary. I think he had something like a Lickitung Goodra backline. And yeah, my Wigglytuff was looking quite good in Steam as well, with the Annihilate, Goodra, and the Lickitung. In game number 2, I can't remember exactly how it went. I think I went like ABB into his Lickitung, baited out Lickitung with the Lantern at some point, and I had Giratina clean up his Goodra, and I think the other one was his Lantern, so went quite well. Again, Goodra charge stacks kind of weak, and especially when resisted, so Dragon Breath is good into Giratina, but once shields are down, Giratina is like very fine into Goodra, just because the Shadow Ball and Shadow Claw just hit so hard into it. And I think I barely won that match by 2-0. I thought my third round was going to be against Statistan, who was running like almost the same team as me, but then he had Lickitung instead of Clodsire and Shadow Poliwrath with Power Punch. But Statistan lost to this player, Mario from Chile. And I went to Statistan and asked him a little bit like, what does he play like? Because Statistan had Power Punch, he can't exactly secure a switch advantage into Vigoroth with safe switch. So that was kind of a problem for him, but not so much for me, because regular Poliwrath is bulkier. I believe game 1 I had a dispute against him. I kind of wasn't playing super well that match too. I had like a full health Clodsire and full health Skarmory into like his full health Waxire, because he like safe switch Charjabug. I was in such a good position. I baited the Stone Edge, he no-shielded that. And I think near the end game, if I threw the Earthquake, I would have won regardless. But near the end game, I like missed a much on my Clodsire,
and it allowed him to barely outpace between Aqua Tail, I think, because one of us had half a turn lag, and if that was me, I lost because the mudshot missed. If it was him, it would have been CMP anyway. So I had a dispute. I wanted the judge to look at it. They gave me a rematch, and then I think I had Clodsire and Chargebuck again or something. It was a rough match for him. Poliwrath was really good into his team. I believe I had it on Quagsire as well at some point. He went like ABA to Quagsire and Lickitung, and I caught him on it. And I won 2-0 there as well. And those were basically my only battles off stream. Everything else was going to be on stream. So my first matchup, UIC 2023, he knocked me out there. So we're kind of a... Where I also Giratina Poliwrath is now that I have Clodsire with it, which makes me much better into Chargebuck. Chargebuck's kind of always coming out if he's expecting like my Poliwrath. And Poliwrath is a Pokemon I kind of need because both my Giratina and Clodsire are not great into his Dugong. Dugong is a big problem for me, and so is regular Feraligatr. My strategy here, win lead, RPS in the back. Very simple. But I'm going to make a misplayer, and it's a matchup I'm not super familiar here. You'd think that I'm the Wigglytuff master. I'm only so Wigglytuff player, man. These bells are sped up a little bit. So here's my misplay already. And you'll see that later. And that's something I did know, truthfully. I should have shielded this discharge, because I'm going to play for switch advantage. I'm expecting like Dugong in the back. I want my Poliwrath on that. Or Feraligatr could also be in the back, right? And you'll see now that I'm shielding the debuffed discharge. This one would have done less than the previous one. So the previous discharge would have done more, right? He brings in the Gligar, and because I didn't shield the first one, I barely don't reach the Icy Wind. This is actually crucial. And now bringing the Giratina, a non-debuffed Dig. This will do a lot of damage, but Giratina can take it. Has like 90 on its stat distribution. In comes Feraligatr, and I know this matchup at the top of my head. I Icy Wind from all the way down. That's okay. The problem is that he has 2 shields here. If I shielded that first discharge and got to my Icy Wind into the Gligar, he would probably have 1 shield here, and I would be very fine. But yeah, you'll see Hydro Cannon comes through. Because I debuffed him, it's not as threatening. I should be able to counter him just barely down. I come out with an Icy Wind, but it doesn't matter. He has 2 shields. I need 2 attacks on my Giratina because he has another shield. And I will get to 1 attack. But it doesn't matter. I didn't get to an attack on my Wigglytuff. And for that reason, I'm going to lose this battle. I will let this area ace go. Because I know it's over. He has 2 attacks here. So he wins game number 1. And that's really just one slight misplay on my side that I just wasn't aware of. Game number 2. I never really expect the Lickitung, because it's difficult to pair with his best picks that are Feraligatr and his Dugong. Because all those 3 are weak to Poliwrath. And for that reason, I'm bold enough to lead Lantern with Giratina in the back, which is somewhat ABA to Lickitung. Although if I face a Lickitung lead, I could just stay with Lantern and then hope for the best in the back. I always think Chargebuck comes out though. Dugong is not even bad into Water Gun Lantern as well. I, again, have that rank 1 Lantern here. He does have Crunch on Feraligatr, making it a little bit better for him here. But this is an okay matchup for me. If I bait once, I win the 0-1 shield here, which is something you're gonna see here. I'm gonna go for the Surf here, and he shields that. His next Crunch will not knock out because he didn't get a debuff. Crunch comes through. I will hang on just barely, and then he does get a debuff, but it's too late. As you can see here, I will be able to get to the Thunderbolt. So rank 1 was very fine here. I'm not sure if the 0-15-1 would do that as well, honestly, because you might miss some HP. Now I'm 2 shields up. The only thing that could go wrong is if he has that Lickitung in the back, but he doesn't. So I can take all this damage here, that's just fine. I know it's going to be Chargebuck in the back. And I'm going to take this on another attack. I'm going to make a slight misplay here, which is not throwing my energy into Chargebuck. And the reason why that's a misplay is because if I later farm down like a Dugong, I could throw the energy again into Chargebuck, like farm more energy. And now I'm still stuck with all that energy. It doesn't matter though. Dugong in the back. I'm looking at him like, oh, you're playing ABA. Come on, man. Like weak to Poliwrath in the lead, weak to Dugong in the back. But you know, I also did kind of the same with my Lantern and Giratina. So who am I to complain? It's like a soft ABA from him. Icy Wind debuffs me, which means I have to go for Shadow Ball. I have to do this immediately. And now it's quite simple. I just need to get to an attack on a Chargebuck. I have a Scald loaded, which I wasn't 100% sure of at this time, honestly.
So I'll shield this up. I know he's not at another one, so I can do one more Shadow Claw. Even though this Shadow Ball is debuffed, it still should do a very significant amount of damage. And that should be fine. Shadow Ball does a lot of damage. And again, because I wasn't sure if I had Skull or not, I'm going to go for Icy Wind. I knew it would knock out at this point anyway. He threw immediately as well, but it didn't matter because Polar wins Charge Attack priority. And that makes the score 1-1. So now I brought Giratina twice. Dana knows I can bring Giratina at any time. I'm not shy to bring Giratina. But this time I brought Clodsire. And the reason why is because I want to be stronger into Charger Bug. Giratina already is good into Charger Bug, but I just want to change it up just a little bit. Let's see how that's going to go. Lantern again into Feraligatr. The thing with Dana is he knows if he lets a Thunderbolt through that the game is basically over on alignment. And at some point he's going to ask me if I'm running the same team again, which he might be expecting, right? If it's the same team, it would be great alignment for him with the Charger Bug on my Poliwrath and the Lickitung on my Giratina. Playing Giratina is always a little bit risky. Clodsire, not so much. Especially when I see it here. So we're gonna play it the same way. He uses 2 shields again, plays for alignment, and he's asking me, are you playing the same team again? And I'm saying, of course. You don't think I'm original, do you? I'm like, you know, we're just teasing each other a little bit. At this point, like, talking to each other really throws each other off count. But Dana knows, and I think I myself know as well, there are points you don't need to count anymore. At this point, I'm just no-shielding everything on Poliwrath anyway. And he doesn't need to count there as much either. He knows that, like... This time I do make the correct play, by the way. Because if it's a Dewgong in the back, I want to like get a farm down maybe. And look at that, already puts him at half damage. So I'm going to bring Clodsire. And Dana flinches. Because he knows it's over. He knows it's over here. If it was Giratina, he would win this matchup easily. Because Giratina has nothing on Lickitung. I believe I need an Earthquake and 2 Stone Edge. I wasn't too sure if I need 3 Stone Edge, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to shield all these attacks from the Lickitung. That should basically kind of clean up the game here for me. As you can see, Stone Edge will do a good amount of damage here. And then another one should knock him out. He's still throwing some attacks, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna skip a little bit forward here because you'll see this thing comes in. I'm just gonna BM a little bit with the Earthquake. It doesn't really matter. Dan is a good sport, a good friend. That was a good match. So at this point, I moved to day 2. Day 2 started a little bit weird because I expected to play the other winner of my group, which was Beelzeboy. And then the last stage page said I would play Zweilos. And eventually it ended up being the other Dutch guy in the top 32, which was Colin 6. He's won 3 tournaments before, arguably one of, if not the best player in Europe, but I'm not afraid of him. And I have a decent matchup here. My Wigglytuff is good into his Gligar, Altaria, Charger Bug, Feraligatr, and okay into Vigoroth. And I also see good play for my Lantern here. He really only has one answer. He also has Ice Beam on Feraligatr, so that makes my Lantern even more reliable there. I'm going to lead my Clodsire here. My Lantern wouldn't be a great safe switch into Feraligatr, but if he leads Feraligatr, I don't expect his Altaria in the back because it would be very weak into my Wigglytuff lead. I lead Clodsire into Altaria, and he safe switches into Gligar, which I find interesting. And at this point, swapping in my Lantern into his Gligar, he's already ABA to Skarmory, by the way. I kind of feel like I'm screwed. And the reason why is I went soft ABA to his Skarmory, right? My Clodsire is okay into Skarmory in 0 shields. But with shields up, Skarmory wrecks me. So now I'm like, oh man, he baited out my Lantern for his Skarmory. That sucks. I cannot use a shield here. I'm gonna charm him down. Even now that he knows that his Altaria is probably in a better spot than against that Clodsire, it doesn't really matter anyway. He brings in Vigoroth, and I'm like, why do you bring this Pokemon? My Lantern is fine into your team, Clodsire is fine into your team, Wigglytuff is fine into your team, Poliwrath is fine into your team. There's like no play for that Vigoroth, in my opinion. Maybe you expect me to bring the Giratina, but this was not the time to bring Giratina just yet. Clodsire is very fine into this matchup, can take the Dragon Breath quite well. As you can see, Stone Edge does just a little bit under half damage, but it brings it so low, the 2 Stone Edge, that I will be able to just mud-shot him down. Sky Tech won't do a lot of damage. I'm just gonna like charm that Vigoroth down. Doesn't really matter at this point. Get the nice mud-shot down here. Throw in the Earthquake. At this point, all I have to do is like double shield the Wigglytuff, as you can see here. maybe a nasty strategy. I don't know. At this point, I just felt like Waiting Tough was the way to go. And maybe I could have cleaned up with the Clodsire as well, going for the Earthquake, double shield there. It was just using a matter of using my shield somewhere. He didn't really respect my Waiting Tough, I feel like, without bringing the Skarmy there. So definitely expecting Skarmy in game number 2. He didn't bring the Skarmy though. Maybe he was afraid that I would counter it a lot, and I kind of did with the Lantern in the back. I really like this team composition that I had here though. If I lead into Gligar, I can just throw in my Lantern, because I don't expect him to go ABA into Skarmory with Gligar lead, Altaria in the back. So if I say his Lantern, his best neutral answer is probably his Charge Bug. If I bait out the Charge Bug, my Skarmory will be free, and I probably get a shield advantage out of that middle matchup. So I'm swapping in my Lantern. He's going into the Charge Bug. Maybe didn't expect that safe switch of mine and flinch a little bit. So I'm going to win the 0 shields now with this energy advantage. 2 X-Scissor won't be enough to knock me out just yet. I'm going to time my serve as well as I can. And I should get a shield advantage. That will free up my Skarmory in the back. And as you can see on his team, he doesn't really have any other Skarmory answers besides Feraligatr. But non-Shadow Feraligatr is not that great into Skarmory. Normally, Shadow Feraligatr can throw a Hydro Cannon and double shield Shadow Claw all the way down. You'll see soon that Hydro Cannon from regular Feraligatr is rather underwhelming. I don't wait the clock here, maybe I should have. Doesn't matter. Lag a turn, doesn't matter too. I still get my second charm through. Discharge, a little bit of a weak electric type attack, so I can take it quite well on my Wigglytuff. Now I'm gonna go into my Skarmory as soon as his Gligar comes back in. Let's see, in the back is Feraligatr as expected, and I've played this in the genetic meta a lot, and I know that Skarmory can win this matchup. I just need to land a Brave Bird. I'm not gonna shield the first Hydro Cannon, doesn't do as much damage as you think it would. I think this might barely not knock out, but Colin is going to respect this anyway, which I think is not the play to go with. Because if I'm debuffed here and I use a shield, that Gligar might be able to just area ace me. Just might be able to area ace me down. Gonna let this go now at this point after he shielded. What I need to do here is to get to a charge deck on the Gligar, and because his timer's not up yet, I have a lot of time to get to that Icy Wind. The Shadow Claws don't do any damage, and they won't put me into area ace either. He needs to get to a dig. And I think at this point I'm like 1 charm off the Icy Wind. So let's see. I'm actually at the Icy Wind. He swaps into Gligar, catches a charm in the process, and takes another one. And now this Icy Wind will knock out. 1 charm should knock out the Feraligatr. I'm very happy with this. My emotions come out a little bit, and that wins me the first round of day 2. My second round of day 2 will be against Martogalda. And his team is tough because he has a Whimsicott, which will not really allow me to play Lantern, Poliwrath, and Giratina together. I actually discussed with Toad Tactical before this matchup. Maybe I should play like Lantern lead Giratina in the back, because he would never expect that. He knows that I won't play some insane ABA, and then like Clodsire in the middle maybe. But I wasn't ballsy enough. Now look at his team. Skarmory, Whimsicott, Lantern. If I played what I talked about with Toad Tactical, I would have RPS him entirely. Now he gets Skarmory on my Wigglytuff lead, and this is looking difficult. He swaps in this Pokemon Whimsicott, and you'll see later in the the loose finals, that this match was not that great for Whimsicott, but this scenario is different. And this is something I struggled with also in the grand finals. You'll all see this later on. But you'll see that I do this here as well. I shield this not because I want to, because I want to win this matchup. I want to stall the clock. The problem here is every single time, if I don't have Lantern and I get shields down, Skarmory will Brave Bird anything on my team, and even if I were to take Switch here, I need to get use 2 shields of mine, and he'll just Brave Bird my Giratina, so there was no point in that. I'm hoping it's Lantern in the back. I always expected Lantern from him, honestly, because he expects my Skarmory to counter his Whimsicott. Skarmory comes back in. I know at this point it's gonna be that Lantern, but the 1 shield is annoying. The 1 shield is annoying, and I know this. I'm hoping that because he's a shiny Skarmory that he won't be as good here. But no, Marto runs a very good Skarmory, and Skarmory wins the 1 shields here, just barely. Look at this. Yeah, he gets there. He gets there. I catch the attack. I need to. It's even a Brave Bird, which sucks. That's gonna do a lot of damage, and in fact, that will put me into Water Gun downrange for this Lantern. So that's rough. I'm gonna go for the Swift here. We'll be able to get there. He knows he cannot shield that. I need to get to
2 Ominous Wind here, I think. Actually, Ominous Wind will hardly knock him out when he's in the red, so I need a Shadow Ball maybe even. Perhaps with Shadow Claws could make it. But Martogalda, a smart player, made it this far for a reason. He's going to go for 2 Surf rather than 1 Thunderbolt. I would have lived a Thunderbolt. I was hoping it was a Thunderbolt. But I think even with Thunderbolt, I would get the Water Gun down. So, well played by him. A little bit of a predictable team composition by myself, I think. And that's why he got me. Game number 2. I get a lead that I'm okay with, but it's not great. As you can tell by my backline, I'm playing ABB into Gligar, so I need to bait it out at some point. And because I'm staying pretty long into this matchup, he gathers more energy. And it actually makes me reluctant to swap in Poliwrath. Poliwrath is my safe switch here. It will allow me to win the one-shot into safe switch Gligar. But because he had so much energy on the Lickitung, I was afraid. And I changed plans. There is the Gligar. Kind of going according to plan. But also not exactly. This is not what I wanted. This is also a little bit of a core that I always struggle with, like Lickitung, Gligar, Lantern, because I know everyone who has those plays them together. It's kind of obnoxious to deal with. Gonna go for another Stone Edge. He's actually going to shield this, which is very much surprising me, because I'm like, what are you doing? Gligar is not going to do a lot into my Skarmory. I'm not going to shield this. I'm going to let this go. And then bring my Skarmory immediately. I need to get rid of this Gligar here. I'm going to go for the Sky attack that will knock out the Gligar, but he actually shields again. Which is... I'm like, what are you doing? He brings in the Lickitung. And you see Marto shaking his head here. Because he's like, oh man, it's Giratina on the back. But what Marto didn't think of is, if there's Giratina in the back, do you think I will swap out of this matchup? There's absolutely no shot. I have the stats. I actually wrote the stats down of how many knockouts I have, how many safe switches I have. And I never ever had Giratina as my safe switch. Giratina has been an incredible sweeper for me, by the way. Somewhere in day 2, I think, between my first losers round until my last one, in 6 appearances, Giratina had 12 knockouts. So that's like a 2 KD ratio, which is crazy, right? But yeah, this here. Marto played very well. I let an Air Ace go because I know everything that is in the back has a... Anything that's in the back probably has a harder hitting attack, and that is going to be the Lantern. If it was Giratina, I wish Giratina would have won that matchup for me, but it was the Poliwrath, so it was a good play by Marto. Means I go into the losers bracket. But the losers bracket is going to be for the next video because I have a lot of matchups to cover. Thank you for watching and see you next one.